In this video, I'm going to show you how to use prop.test to perform a two-sided test for a single population proportion. Now to start, you need to have a set of hypotheses. In this case, my hypotheses are p equaling 0.1, and then in our notation I have written down here, p is not equal to 0.1. Now to perform a test, you'd also need to decide upon a significance level, a probability for a type 1 error. So I'm going to decide upon 0.02 for this test. And then you need a rule for rejecting that null hypothesis. In this particular case, we're going to reject if our p-value that gets calculated by r is going to be less than our significance level, or that alpha number that I have there. Now to do this, we need to go out and collect some data, and we need to make sure our data meets two requirements. One is that we have a simple random sample, and one is that the sample size is basically big enough. So we need to have our n times I'll put a 0 there, a p0 value being bigger than 10, and an n times a 1 minus p0 value being bigger than 10. Well, in this particular case, our p0 value is that 0.1 that's sitting there, and 200 times 0.1 is going to be bigger than 10, and 200 times 0.9 is also going to be bigger than 10. So I've met those requirements. Well, I haven't really met the first one here because I just made these numbers up. But in the real life situation, you'd have to check that one. And so if I want to run the test, I can use this prop.test option. And what I have to do with it is tell it the number of successes I have. In this particular case, I have 67 successes. Then I have to tell it my sample size. In this case, we have a sample size of 200. Then I have to tell it my p0 value, that hypothesized probability. And so that's p equaling 0.1. And then I have to tell it what type of test to run. In this particular case, it's a two-sided test. You know that by looking at the alternative and seeing the not equals there. So I just say alternative equals, and it's two dot-sided. And I can leave the defaults for the rest. It modifies our test a little bit from what you saw in class, but not enough that we're going to worry about it. And then I'll just go ahead and run this. And what we can do is look down here and see all of our results. And we're not going to worry about the last 3 lines there, or 5 lines. What we're going to look at is just double checking that we've got the right alternative, we've got the right null value, and then we'll look at our p-value here, which in this case is in scientific notation, and it gives me something that's extremely tiny, and that's definitely smaller than my significance level of 0.02. So I can come back to the end of this test, and unfortunately we can't say anything more than we're going to reject that null hypothesis, because this was just all made up numbers here. Doesn't have any application to anything real. But we can at least look at this and sort of see how we type stuff in for this particular test. Anyway, that's prop.test for a two-sided alternative.